Hey guys, this is Betamax Man again. Welcome to part 2 of the Sony SL HF500 repair. Finding out just exactly what's going on here as to why it won't eject. So let me hit eject. See that? So what I think is going on is we've got a cracked gear in the planetary gear set here. So we need to actually take that apart to see what's going on, because if we I'm going to go ahead and power this off, unplug it, and we're just going to see if, yeah, because this is, see, it's not doing anything, you see that? Come on, guys. Kitty cats always want to climb on stuff. Every time I go to work on something, these cats want to climb on top of it. Alright, guys, come on. Copper Cooper, come on, buddy. Yeah, see, because if we turn this, and it's not doing anything. But, you know, the weird thing is that when it was loading, it was fine. So, I'm going to go ahead and take this off, back off, and see if I can spot the issue. I'm going to see if this is maybe jammed, or is it jammed, or is the problem in the gears here? Because it might just be jamming up, because it was jamming up on me when before when we were working on it, and it seemed like it was kind of jamming up on us, because when I would pull this off, I still couldn't get that gear to turn or move, and so, but I don't know, we're gonna have to figure that out. So first things first, we need to take the screws back out. Okay, good, I unplugged it. I just want to make sure this thing is unplugged, and then I'm going to go ahead and take a look here. And I'm hoping and praying that it's not jamming up. I hope it's just got an issue with the gears in here. Sometimes there's like a cracked gear that'll happen, and what that does is that split will make the gear open up, and it won't make contact with the other gears. It won't mesh the other gears. Copper Cooper, come on, buddy. And yes, it's unplugged, and I'm not letting them get near it. Come on there. I think sometimes they're worse than children. They want to get into everything. Come on. No, Copper Cooper. We'll get the thing out of here. I'm hoping that it's just in the gears. Like, I hope it's not anything to do with the thing jamming up, but we won't know until we get this taken back off. Because that's really interesting that it isn't coming off here. So, and that spring that came off, that's actually a common issue that I've seen over the years working on these things, because it can't detect that there's a tape in there, and so it just doesn't complete the loading cycle. But it actually should. I'm just wondering if it is jamming up, because it should have unthreaded, but maybe when the motor is running full tilt. And sometimes if the belt tensioner is a little too high, if the belt's a little too tight, it'll have problems too, but not like what we were seeing. So, I just want to see here, because sometimes there's a gear that'll split. This plastic gear, this has got a metal gear, but sometimes this plastic gear down here will split, and sometimes it'll be this gear here that splits. Now we can fix it with a glue or some kind of an epoxy. You can glue the gears back together, and that'll give it a little bit more life, but I have another planetary gear set, so I really don't need to worry about repairing this one, although we might, just to, I don't know, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to replace it or if I'm going to, okay. It actually appears to be like it's jammed, so it does appear to be jamming up. I know why it is jamming up. The tape guide. Remember earlier I was talking about how the tape guide was supposed to hit this before it, because it's going in too far. That tape guide is not supposed to do that. That tape guide, I'm going to push it down, and now we should be able to move that gear down here. Yeah, no, it's jammed up in there still, so I gotta get this tape out of here. Good thing it's a test tape, right? I really don't want to do that, so okay, let's get the, I'm gonna have to work around it. There we go. Let's get that pushed down in there. Get that pushed down in there like that. That way. Let me get this down in there so I can kind of just turn it. But there's nothing wrong with the planetary gear set. It's just because the tape guide is getting jammed. So I'm going to have to figure out why that guide is not going into this. Somebody's been messing with it. Look at that. Did you see that move, guys? That's moved. That's not supposed to. Somebody has had this off. Somebody has messed with the stopper here, and that's why the guide is jamming up the way it is. I'm gonna have to get this realigned, because that's why it's jamming up, and it's jamming up on me pretty good. So that tape guide is actually, I'm not able to get that thing to move like I was the last time, but I can see why. I know exactly why now this thing is jammed up, because this guide here is twisted, and that guide is just about ready to break off. So if I'm not careful, I'm going to break that guide, all because somebody was fucking around with the stopper here. This is for This, you never have to mess with these. But you see how this is bent? I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's a bend right there. And that is not good. Alright, I got it to unjam. And if I could just... There we go. I have to get the tape out of there. This tape is a test tape, so it looks like it's got some grease and stuff on it now, so I'm going to have to clean the cassette here before I even attempt to use it again. But now it's unstuck. But what's going on here is the tape guide is not hitting this. The tape guide is supposed to slide into this, right? And it stops. And what's going on is the tape guide is going past that. And it's getting jammed up underneath the mechanism here. So I should have done a dry run before running a tape in it. But I was so excited just to get it to play that I lost sight of what I was actually supposed to be doing. If I would have done a dry run, I would have been fine. But now, get this thing to undo here. So what is going on is, see, what could have happened is I could have stripped out the gear down there, or the gear onto the planetary gear set. I could have stripped it out real easily because it was sitting there spinning, and that bottom metal gear wasn't doing anything. Well, if metal touches plastic and the plastic is still spinning, even though it shouldn't continue spinning, but it does, and then it causes the gear to get shredded. So I hope I haven't done any damage to that gear. But yeah, so, and then basically what you want to do is we're going to go ahead and get that undone here. And then we're going to move this so that we can get the tape out. All you do is turn this gear here and your tape will start to lift up. You see that? I've got to clean the tape before grease got onto that tape there. You see that? So if I want to use this tape again, I got to get that grease off of there before I even attempt to put this cassette back in. But the thing is that one, I'm happy that we got it to play. Two, I'm happy I found out why the tape guide was jamming up. And three, I'd like to chew that guy out that had this, that was fucking with it, that didn't know what they were doing. Because they just caused more problems than good. So, you know, if the tape is not unloading, there's a reason for it, right? But apparently the owner of this, previous owner, just decided to take these screws off and start messing with these guides, and you never ever have to touch these guides. These guides are set from the factory. They have paint on them, and of course the tape has been, seal's been broken, so that also tells me somebody's had this off. And basically the guide is going in too far. So the guide is supposed to stop like right here, right? Like we're right dead center in that groove. And what is happening? It's actually going farther than that. Because this has been out of alignment. This is not. This is supposed to be back a ways so that the guide goes in there and stops. And then when it unloads, the guide, of course, goes back. But the guide was going in so far that it actually got it jammed up. So this the loading ring couldn't unload because the guide was keeping it jammed up and it wasn't able to move back. And so that's what was going on. So this is why we have no eject. This is why I emphasize that people, I mean, sometimes people that don't have the knowledge, they don't know what they're doing, they can cause more harm than good, right? So sometimes when you get a machine that somebody else has messed with, it sucks because you have to try and figure out what problem did they create and what problem did it originally have. Okay. So this thing is now back into its home position. Oh, wrong way. Alright, now I can go ahead and take this out of here. And I'm going to go ahead and clean that cassette so that now the cassette's out of here. So now I can actually do kind of a dry run. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take the screws out of this because I've got to reline this up. This is now out of alignment. So there we go. Now, you see how far that moved? That should be out like that, not in. It was in like that, and that's why it was catching. So it's actually got to be out like that, and that's where it's supposed to be. So we're going to go ahead and I'm not going to mess with this guide here because this one seems to be functioning okay. It's just this guide that's messed up here that needs to be. This is why you want to, if you really are serious about having a beta machine worked on, sometimes it's better to either have it sent to somebody that knows what they're doing and to have it repaired, or talk to the person, to a technician that, or somebody that knows these machines. You know, talk to them first, you know, ask them for guidance before attempting any kind of repairs, because you can cause more harm than good, right? So I've got some grease on my finger there. I'm not sure where that came from. Probably the track down there. Somebody put grease on that plastic track, and it actually doesn't need grease. It's not supposed to have grease in there, but some people think it does, so they put it in there. But okay, so now we're gonna do a dry run and make sure that we've got the guide back in the right place. Yeah, we'll do a dry run now. You can see that the posts are now popping up. So there's the first post, which will go into there. And now the second post should go, and it's not. See that? You see how that post is not going? It isn't going where it should go. So if that post should actually be already stopped, and it's not. So it might be that this guide is slightly broken, and that might be why it's not. But it's not hitting. It's not going into that groove like it's supposed to. Guys, I am working on this thing, but basically I've got the guide now to go in there like it's supposed to. This metal piece was definitely bent. I may have to just go ahead and replace the whole entire bracketry just so that I can basically make sure that those guides go in there the way they're supposed to. So what I'm saying is just replacing these two stoppers, these little tape guide stoppers, replacing just those, and that'll ensure that this thing, that the guide goes in where it's supposed to. The guide is supposed to stop inside of there, and if it's not, and it goes underneath it and it catches, and then it can't unthread it. But if we go ahead and look here now, you can see that the guide is now stopping when it goes in there. You see that? See how now that guide stops? So if we unload it, and now the guide is in there and it's stopped. But what's going on is this guide has been bent to hell, and that's what's causing it to not be in the right position, because it still wants to kind of move upward a little bit, even though I got the screws tight. And I've had to actually kind of extend it out a little bit so that it'll catch. But yeah, I've got to have, this has got to be repaired, otherwise it will not eject anymore until this is resolved. But this is why it won't eject. It's getting past the stopper, and when it goes past that, it gets jammed up in the mechanism, and so it will no longer be able to retract the tape. The loading ring will no longer be able to retract because it's not going into that guide. So when it goes into that guide properly, then it'll eject like it's supposed to. So the guide is now popping up and going into that groove, and now it's stopping. Now, what could have been the cause of some of the issues with the fast rewind and the fast forward, like regular rewind and regular like fast forward, when you hit stop and hit fast forward, or you hit stop and hit rewind, and it was having a little bit of issues, and that could be due to this problem, the tape tension. That'll cause the tape tension to not be right, and if the tape tension's not right, it's going to have those issues. So, and I'm going to go ahead and unthread. First I've got to get the screws back in this section here, and then we'll get this thing tested out, because I believe now that this will definitely eject now. Now that we've got that issue fixed. So I'm just gonna get this thing back in the unloaded here, and hopefully we didn't chew any of the plastic gears on this planetary gear set. If we did chew them, then I've got another part I can put in here. But let's go ahead and we're gonna get the screws in, and then I'll try this thing out. First off, I've got to get the belt back on. So let's get this belt back on, because this thing isn't gonna do anything unless that belt has been put back on. Because this tooth belt, this is the drive belt for the mechanism. So if this drive belt is not installed, it's not going to do anything. However, get this belt goes on. Probably should have adjusted the tensioner just a little bit. It's not supposed to be overly tight, it's just supposed to be snug, and it looks like somebody has adjusted this and messed with it, so there we go. Now loosen that up, and then we're gonna just we just basically just want just a little bit of tension on there like that. You don't need a whole lot of tension on there. Okay, we'll put the cap back on, and this thing should now load and unload without any issues. So put the cassette in. Okay, play. Now, of course, this tape's been chewed, so there's bad spots in the tape, unfortunately. A lot of dropouts, a lot of issues. So let's go ahead and see if this thing will eject. You noticed how the guide is now in there like it's supposed to, and now it'll eject. Just like that, guys. And just like that, we've successfully repaired this machine. Isn't that wonderful? I love Beta. Beta was superior in every way, shape, or form. And I don't give a shit what that kid Technology Connections, I think he calls himself, tried to say that Beta wasn't any better, and he's trying to say VHS was better and all this shit, and I'm like, he doesn't understand the way these machines work. Like, he doesn't understand the technical aspect. When you've got a couple different factors that makes Beta better. One, it had a faster tape speed. Two, the heads were larger, and so you were able to put more detail and more clarity on the tape, so there was more information being put on the tape. And the angle of the tape, the diagonal stripe is recorded in a lot, that stripe is longer, and so yeah, you get more information you get on that tape, the better the picture quality is. So it really has to do with tape speed and video heads, and I mean, there's a whole bunch of factors, but those are the two main ones. The faster tape speed and the larger head. You can put more detail on the tape. It's just, yeah. But anyway. But now that see if we can forward through this. Let's get past all this bad spot. Alright. There you go. And we got it fixed. So that's awesome. So the next thing that I'd like to do to this thing is just do some basic maintenance on this thing, and just see all what I gotta do to it. But you know, just basically cleaning off any of the old lubricant and putting fresh new lubricant, new grease where it needs to go, new oil. Just there's a few things that I want to do to this machine to get it 100% working and having the ability to stay working and get it to where it'll run for a long time without any issues, because yeah, I don't want any issues with this machine, so I want to do a maintenance on it. Yeah, it'd be great to do a restoration on this at some point in time. Obviously the regulator is still good in this thing. Now, one of the causes of regulator failures was because sometimes the factory would not put enough heatsink compound on the regulators, and that would cause the regulator to get really hot and basically burned it out, and that was the reason why so many of them failed. And I've seen so many of these regulators where I've investigated it and found out, okay, what was the cause for this regulator to fail, and to find out there wasn't enough heatsink compound on the chip to give it a long, healthy life. And that heatsink compound helps keep that chip cool and distribute evenly. Anyway, that's pretty much why the regulators would go bad, is the factory wouldn't put enough heatsink compound on there, and then it would burn up on it. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, there are some things that I'm gonna do to this thing. Want to do just some basic maintenance to this thing, and you know, do some maintenance on the reel table motor, and maybe I'll take that power supply apart and just apply fresh new grease on the new heatsink compound on the regulator and give it a nice coating so that it will stay working for a long time. And that was one of the reasons why they would fail, is they didn't get enough compound on there, and you know, like I said, they'd burn up. But also there's a All effect sensor that can fail on both the reel table motor and the head drum motor. There's a Hall effect sensor on the head drum motor, Hall effect sensor on the reel table motor, and there's a few other things that, you know, can be done to this thing to keep it working and keep it working for a long time. Now, I'm not saying that this machine is going to last forever, but we can get it to last, well, hopefully we might be able to get a few more years out of it, you know. One of the issues with this chassis is that sometimes the plastic just gets old and brittle, and it tends to break, and it tends to cracks and breaks, and then the guides, the tape guide isn't straight up and down, and it'll flop over to one side and cause issues. So, but you know, these things are getting older and stuff, and they're not going to last forever, but if we can make them last as long as we can, you know, just as long as possible. And I'm not sure how much use this machine has seen, but I don't think it's had a lot of hours on it. The display is still in fairly good shape, and I'm not really seeing a whole lot of signs of heavy use. I think this machine has been used a lot, but I don't think it's been used heavily. But what can be happening with with the rewind and fast forward, what could happen is sometimes those capacitors for the real table motor actually will start to fail, and then they go out of tolerance. The ESR goes off, out of tolerance and out of spec, because they just get old, and sometimes they leak, and sometimes the electrolytic just dries up in them. So that could be an issue, but that usually is what causes issues with not being able to rewind or fast forward. I mean, if we put this in, and we'll just see if what the rewind and fast forward is like. And yeah, it's actually not too bad. It's been warmed up though, so that tells me that I think the past capacitors, they definitely need to be changed because they're not performing at their best, So, but anyway, yeah. So hopefully you guys will enjoy seeing the. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we're gonna do a lot more videos in the past, on this. We'll do another couple videos. So we'll do, a couple more things of this thing to, get it so that it's, working and continues to work, because we got to do some. We want to do maintenance to it, just to make sure that it's, everything's working good, and everything continues to work good. But those are some of the common problems that these machines have. This particular chassis wasn't all that reliable. Actually, I think Sanyo had a lot better mechanism mechanically. I think it was a lot more robust, and they were a little bit better built. The 710 chassis kicks this one's ass. The 710 chassis was probably the best chassis they ever made, and 710 was from the SL5000 series Betamax machines. The SL5000, the 5200, 5600, 5800, those were really good machines. They were really good. They were built very well. This chassis is not a chassis that I particularly like, but it was used in a lot of the late 80s beta machines, and then they did do some changes. They got rid of the solenoid and actually went with a plungerless system, and what they did was took the solenoid out, and they actually put a rotary encoder switch in there, and yeah, it had its own problems too. So really, the only chassis that Sony made that I really thought was very well made and very robust was the 710 chassis. 710 chassis was probably the best chassis Sony ever made. There was another chassis that I liked. The very first chassis that they created, like the SL7200 and the 8200, 8600, they had that was the first design they made. I like that one too, and I can't remember the name of that particular chassis, but the 710 came after those. Anyway, got the top back on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'm gonna try and make, you know, it's gonna be 2 parts, and what I'm gonna try and do is try to make the video no more than 30 to 40 minutes. Sometimes my videos get a little long because I tend to ramble on, and sometimes I even repeat myself and not realizing that I'm doing it. And I have a passion for these machines, and so I really enjoy working on them, and I enjoy seeing the progress and seeing something that was completely dead, not working. You know, not dead, but I mean something that was not working, and then get it working, you know. Doing things to make it play again, and getting it so it's useful again, that it doesn't just sit somewhere in someone's storage unit, that it gets, you know, fixed, sold, and sent to somebody that is going to digitize their tapes. I've rambled on long enough, and hope you enjoyed the video, and I think we will, you know, go into the power supply, and maybe I'll recap the power supply, because I'm sure it would be a good idea to do that with this machine. And then, you know, maybe go into the head amp and the preamp, and, you know, just recap that, and maybe, you know, both the playback side and the record side, because there's a preamp side for playback and a preamp section for recording. So there's a few things I want to get it working. Now, I do have another machine coming in, and it'll probably be in by next weekend. It is a Sanyo Beta machine, and it's one of the rare models. It's a very rare model, and there wasn't a whole lot of them around anymore. And so, it's the Sanyo VCR3 that will be coming in for repairs, and I am back, and I'm gonna try and you know, do more repair videos on beta machines, because I've been kind of lax for the last, you know, several months. I haven't really done much as far as repair videos go, and I want to get back into doing that. And I apologize for being gone for so long. Life gets in the way sometimes, and then also illness sometimes comes in too, so that was another reason why I had some illness issues too. But anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.